Good morning. My name's Anita. I'm a Canadian author, primarily of books for young people. Well, completely of books for young people, primarily middle grade and teen novels. Just before the world took such an unsettling turn and classes were interrupted for so many students in Canada. Deb Marshall mentioned to me that she was sharing my last book for young readers, Forgetting How to Breathe, with students. That would have been interrupted. So I've decided that I will read a chapter a day until it's done and do with it what you'd like. If there's kids that were waiting to see how the book turned out, then maybe you'll find out. If you have any questions, I'll be around. I'll leave it at that. Why don't we just get started? Okay. Forgetting How to Breathe. It's about a girl in foster care who hasn't accepted that her mother may have abandoned her and her brother. And through a series of events and a foster care placement in Manitoba's Interlake, she begins to reach out, make connections, learn to trust in love. Forgetting How to Breathe, Chapter 1. Tia struggled to keep exasperation from her voice. "Come on, Tag, I told you we have to hurry." "But I don't want to hitch a ride," Tag whined. "Can't we take a bus?" Her brother's complaining was beginning to grate on her last nerve. She knew it was because he was scared, and only 8 years old. With all they'd been through, she sometimes forgot that he was still a little kid. But what choice did they have? Winnipeg was a 1-hour drive from their new home in Manitoba's Interlake, too far to walk. "There is no bus," Tia told him. "Anyway, it's Friday night. Lots of people will be driving to Winnipeg to see shows and stuff." It was what people did. Mama had gone to lots of shows before she disappeared. It was one of her favorite things. "We're not supposed to hitchhike." "It's fine." At 13, Tia figured she was pretty good at telling nice from nasty. She would keep Tag safe. "But why do we have to go at all?" Tag asked. "You know why. Because of Scout." "No, it's Kathy. She could have said yes, the lodge is huge." "A dog that big belongs in a zoo, not a house," Kathy had said. Yeah, right, Tia thought. Exaggerate much? But Kathy had insisted the dog should go to the Animal Rescue Center. Remembering Kathy's words and the argument that followed made Tia's blood boil all over again. "But he needs a home, just like Tag and I did." "You and Tag are people." "So what? It's not like you don't have space." "I'm sorry, Tia, but the answer's no. I won't change my mind on this." "He's just a dog," Tag said. "How are you even my brother?" Tia loved her brother with everything in her, but they were polar opposites in terms of personality. Tia was more like Mama, adventurous, willing to take a chance on things, while Tag was cautious. Maybe his nature came from their father. Daddy had died when Tag was a baby and Tia was 5. Her memories of him were dim, but at least she had a few, more than Tag. A gust of icy wind stole her breath, pushing her back. It was almost April, but the warmth of spring, so recently arrived with early buds and sun kisses, had disappeared like a promise it couldn't keep. Tia tucked her chin into her jacket collar, moving quickly. She was in a hurry to get some distance from Kathy and Bob's, the latest in a string of foster care placements. "You'll love the Magnusons," their caseworker Jamie had said as she dropped them off 1 week and 2 days ago. She'd said the same thing about the other 4 homes Tia and Tag had been placed in over the last 2.5 months, none of which had worked out. As always, they'd carried their belongings in garbage bags. Kids in foster care didn't get suitcases, but garbage bags would make them stand out in this town, which would get them stopped before they'd hardly made a start. When they'd left the house with Scout, fake Mom and Dad hadn't even noticed they were wearing their school backpacks. "It's not stealing," Tia told herself. Kathy and Bob had said they were theirs to keep, but instead of notebooks, inside they each carried a toothbrush, extra socks and underwear, 2 shirts. Jamie had promised the Magnusons' place would be different, and on the surface it was. The home was in the country next to Lake Winnipeg, but still close enough to the small town of Gimli that they could walk there if they didn't mind a short hike. Kathy and Bob ran a tourist lodge called Great Blue Haven. the Great Blue Haven. Guests stayed in cabins nestled along Lake Winnipeg, while the family lived in the main house, serving up breakfasts in the quaint tea room. Oh, Kathy and Bob acted nice enough, but Tia knew it wouldn't last. It never did. The Magnusons hadn't yelled at them or hit them or anything like that, but there was something about Kathy that got under Tia's skin. Apart from when she was saying no, she was way too nice, like over the top, like a TV version of a mother. Tia couldn't figure her out. It wasn't like she was kid-starved or anything. Kathy and Bob already had young twin daughters, Summer and Day. Tia shivered and wished she'd thought to wear her sweater underneath her jacket. How much longer, Tia? I'm not sure. Come on, let's just go back. It wasn't so bad there. I liked it. Better than running away. We're not running away. We're running to. It's different. Besides, Uncle Richard is in Winnipeg. He's rich. He'll help us. He's not really our uncle. He said we could call him that. How do you know he's rich? He lives in a hotel, doesn't he? That probably means he owns it. But we don't even know his last name, Tag argued. Why can't we just call the hotels from here? Because we can't, Tia snapped. She didn't need Tag pointing out that her plan wasn't that well thought out. If we're there in person, they'll see we mean business. Who? They! You know perfectly well who I mean. Anyway, social services knows about him and they haven't done anything. Have to. Jamie said they couldn't find him. We have to find him ourselves. Besides, if the Magnusons really wanted us to stay, they would have said yes to Scout. Okay, fine. Maybe this wasn't really about Scout, but he was the final straw. No, you can't take a break from school. No, you can't have food in your bedroom. No, you can't stay up past 9 o'clock. No, Tag can't have extra applesauce in his lunch. Tia's dark thoughts softened as the shaggy blonde dog in front of them glanced back over his shoulder, as if checking to see they were still following. Mouth open, tongue lolling out over one side over black lips, he looked like an Irish wolfhound with a little something else mixed in. He was a big dog, the biggest Tia had ever seen, but not the giant their new foster mother had made him out to be. How do you even know that's his name? Tag asked. I don't know. He just looks like it. Stop asking so many questions. Sorry, Tag mumbled, sounding not sorry at all. A slippery patch and a crazy dance to stay upright interrupted their bickering. Tag grabbed hold, helping to steady her. Are you okay? Yeah. Weird weather. Tia shivered again. From morning's first blink, gray skies had hung low and harried the land, first with ice-cold drizzle, and then tiny snow pellets. There had even been the occasional rumble of thunder, though it had been faint, as if embarrassed. Now, as daylight began to fade, invisible fingers of ice snuck between folds of their outer wraps to replace warm spaces deep inside with something cold and hollow. The last time the weather had been this strange was in October. The days had shortened like they always did, and leaves had all but blown from the trees. But one day after the morning frost had burned away, the sun got hotter and hotter, like a child stomping its foot in defiance. By evening, it was sweltering. Long after Tag had gone to bed, Mama and Tia sat at the kitchen table sipping iced peppermint tea. Mama moved to the open, night-darkened window and paused there, her fingertips resting lightly on the latch, looking out as if seeing beyond the street, the city, to someplace far away. She stood there so long that Tia wondered if she'd forgotten about her. Then, in a sing-song voice, Mama confided that sometimes she thought about just taking off, getting a new name and starting a new life. When Tia asked what her and Tag's new names would be, she came back to herself, giggled, and said they had no one to hide from. It was nothing, just a silly what-if, like a story you sometimes imagined yourself inside, except that it had made Tia feel all fluttery. She hadn't felt safe. After that, she'd felt the same way every day. The dull ache in her chest she woke with would go away when she saw Mama at the table sipping her coffee, but it would grow back through the day like a lengthening shadow until she rushed home and saw Mama was still there. Then in January, Mama disappeared, and the shadow had wrapped all around her. It hadn't taken long for Tia to grow tired of the sympathetic looks in people's eyes, the ones that said she and Tag were orphans. But they weren't. You can't be an orphan when you still have a mother, Tia thought, even if you don't know where she is. Tia bit her lip. She knew Tag liked Kathy and Bob, and she was taking him away anyway. It was for the best. No matter how nice they acted, they weren't family. Tia and Tag would never truly fit. Maybe taking off was impulsive, but it didn't matter. All Tia knew was that she couldn't stay another minute at the Magnusons, and there was no way she'd leave Tag behind, not ever. Abandoning people who love you was about the worst thing a person could ever do. That wasn't Tia. And it wasn't Mama either. It couldn't be. If she let herself think that, even for a second, she was afraid she'd forget how to breathe. Tia, Tag whimpered, touching her hand. He'd stopped in front of a wrought iron gate at the side of the road. It was an entrance to a small cemetery, one of those private family ones that dotted the countryside, abandoned and overgrown. Tag had always been terrified of cemeteries. Tia had no idea why. Maybe he'd seen some spooky movie, or maybe someone told him a scary story. Whatever the reason, Tia had learned not to push or tease him. It only upset him more. Instead, she held his hand. As long as she stayed quiet, he'd calm. Big, soft flakes of snow had begun to fall, insulating them, muffling any sound they might have heard from the highway, which wasn't too far away. Still, this road was little more than a lane, and as it disappeared around the next bend, polar, aspen, and spruce crowded the edges of it, reaching skyward. It was like the entrance to another world far from home. Tia shook her head, breaking the spell. Come on, let's keep moving. All at once, there was a commotion from around the bend. Holy! Tag cried. Tia spun around as if an electric jolt had shocked her body. When she saw what had caused Tag to cry out, she froze. That's the end of Chapter 1 of Forgetting How to Breathe. Chapter 2 tomorrow. Have a good day.